Most people think they know the exact moment their life falls apart. They think there's a sign, a scream, or a crash. But for me, it started with a turkey. One day, I was the guy who had it all: a loyal wife, a brother who was my best friend, and a home that felt like a sanctuary. The next, I was the villain in a story I didn't even know was being told. If you've ever felt like the people closest to you were whispering behind your back while smiling to your face, you're going to want to hear how I ended the silence. I'm about to show you exactly how I ruined Thanksgiving. If you appreciate the truth, no matter how much it burns, drop a like so the algorithm knows we don't do fake around here. Subscribe if you're ready for the evidence, because the first thing everyone remembers is that I ruined Thanksgiving. That morning, I told my wife I didn't want my brother in our house anymore. I didn't yell, I didn't explain. I just said that if he came, I would leave. She stared at me like I'd insulted her family dog. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. My mom telling me I was being cruel. My dad asking what was wrong with me. My brother sending a text that just said, "Relax." No one asked why. They'd already decided I was the problem. What made it worse was that 3 weeks earlier, I'd still trusted my wife completely. She'd started acting careful. Not distant, not cold, careful. Her phone never left her hand, but she wasn't scrolling. She angled it away from me like it was muscle memory. She'd say she was running errands and come back freshly showered. When I asked if something was wrong, she wrapped her arms around me and said I was her safe place. I wanted that to be true. One night, I grabbed her phone to make a business call, because mine was dead at the time, and a message popped up from a contact saved as E. Just one sentence: "I miss you already." It shouldn't have meant anything, but my chest tightened in a way I couldn't ignore. I opened the conversation. I kept telling myself I was about to find something that hurt but made sense. Some random guy, maybe an emotional affair. Something painful but survivable. Instead, I saw photos taken in my living room. Inside jokes I'd heard before but never questioned. And then a picture that erased every ounce of denial I had left. My brother's wrist, tattoo and all, resting on my wife's thigh. I sat there for a long time before I confronted her. When I finally did, she didn't scream or deny it. She just made a slight smile, chuckled, and said, "Well, I don't have to deal with you anymore." She told me it had been going on for over a year. She said it like it was weather, like it had just rolled in one day and stayed. What broke me wasn't even the betrayal. It was how calm she was when she explained that Evan understood her in ways I didn't, that he listened, that I'd been emotionally absent without realizing it. She didn't ask me to stay. She talked about the future like I wasn't in it anymore. I left that night with a duffel bag and didn't tell anyone why. Not my parents, not my friends, not even my brother, especially not him. Instead, I watched. I documented messages. I noted dates. I installed cameras in the house I legally owned and forced myself to see what I already knew was happening. My brother walking in like he belonged there. My wife laughing the way she used to laugh with me. The ease of it all hurt more than the sex ever could. What I didn't expect to learn was that they'd been telling a story about me. That I was cold. That I was unstable. That my wife was scared of upsetting me. Suddenly, the looks I'd been getting from my family made sense. I wasn't just being difficult. I was the villain in a story I didn't know was being told. When they finally decided to be honest, they framed it like they were doing me a favor. They said they were in love, that they wanted to handle things with maturity and respect. My brother actually thanked me for being understanding. I didn't argue. I just nodded and suggested we still host Thanksgiving. Closure, I said. One last, normal moment. They agreed. Everyone came. My parents, aunts, cousins. Laughter filled the house I no longer felt welcome in. When it was time to eat, I stood up and said I wanted to share something before dinner. I connected my phone to the TV. No dramatic speech, just evidence. Messages, photos, dates, videos. My brother's voice, my wife's laugh. The type of evidence which would crush their made-up story once and for all. A year of lies laid out in silence. My mother covered her mouth. My father didn't look at anyone. My brother tried to speak and couldn't finish a sentence. My wife slid out of her chair and hit the floor. I walked out before anyone could ask me to explain. The divorce was brutal but clean. The prenup held. The house went to me, then I sold it. My wife moved in with Evan. It lasted 3 months before he walked away, apparently shocked that someone capable of betrayal might betray him too. My family doesn't talk about my brother anymore. They talk to me carefully, like someone who survived something contagious. I moved. I started therapy. I learned how quiet life can be when you're no longer bracing for the next lie. I met someone later, unexpectedly. She doesn't flinch when I ask questions. She doesn't treat transparency like a burden. When I told her the worst thing that ever happened to me, she didn't try to minimize it or fix it. She just listened. The strangest part is this. Losing my wife and my brother felt like the end of my life at the time. But standing here now, it feels more like the moment I finally stopped living in a story someone else was writing for me. And for the first time, I trust the quiet. And to the next story. I found my husband's dead ex-girlfriend in a box on our honeymoon. I filed for divorce before sunrise. Our honeymoon night was supposed to be quiet. We were staying in a small hotel in Goa. The ocean light was slipping through the curtains, the room smelled faintly of salt and sunscreen, and I was exhausted after a full day of travel. I don't remember falling asleep, only waking up. Something felt off. My husband was sitting on the edge of the bed, his back to me. In his hands, he was holding a small wooden box, cradling it the way someone holds something fragile, precious. At first, I thought it was a gift, maybe something sentimental he wanted to share. Then I heard him whisper a name, Anushka. My chest tightened. Anushka was his ex-girlfriend. She had died 4 years ago in an accident. I knew about her. I knew her death had devastated him. I had never been jealous of a memory, or so I told myself. But seeing him like that, in the middle of the night, holding that box like a treasure, it stirred something cold in my stomach. "What are you doing?" I asked, half asleep. He flinched so hard he almost dropped the box. He turned around with the expression of a child caught doing something wrong. "Nothing," he said quickly, sliding the box under his pillow. "Just thinking." I sat up. "What's in the box?" He hesitated. Too long. "It's Anushka's ashes." I felt numb. "You brought her ashes on our honeymoon?" "She always wanted to come to Goa," he said, not meeting my eyes. Then he stood up and went to take a shower. I stayed frozen on the bed. Something about his voice, about the way he avoided looking at me, told me I hadn't heard the whole truth. When the bathroom door closed, I reached for the pillow. The box was lighter than I expected. I told myself not to open it, that it was wrong, disrespectful. But I needed to know. Inside the box, there were no ashes. Instead, there was a gold chain with the name Anushka, neatly folded letters tied with a ribbon, and a photograph. A recent photograph. Anushka stood smiling in front of a mirror, alive. At the bottom of the box was a handwritten note in delicate cursive. When she falls asleep, meet me. My hands started shaking. By 6 a.m., my bags were packed. I told my husband I wanted a divorce. He didn't argue. He didn't ask why. He just looked at me with something that felt disturbingly close to relief. I left. 2 weeks later, while staying at my parents' house, I received a call from an unknown number. "Did you enjoy Goa?" a woman asked calmly. I hung up. That evening, I received an email. Subject: I'm sorry you found out this way. Attached was a video. CCTV footage from our hotel. Timestamp 2:17 a.m. Our honeymoon night. I watched my husband leave the room. 5 minutes later, Anushka entered. She stood beside my sleeping body, stared at me for a few seconds, and then looked directly into the camera and smiled. The email ended with one line: "You made the right decision." He was never free. 3 days later, I read the news. My husband was found dead in the same hotel room. The police ruled it a suicide. One item was missing from the room: the wooden box. Sometimes, late at night, I get WhatsApp notifications from an unknown contact. No messages, just a profile picture. A smiling woman standing in front of a mirror. Name: Anushka. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? That someone can be physically present with you, yet emotionally anchored to a ghost that isn't even a ghost. This story isn't just about a secret. It's about the devastating realization that you are playing a supporting role in someone else's haunting. It represents that fragile boundary between the life we're told we're living and the truth that's hidden just under the pillow. If this feels heavy, it's because it is. We often walk through life assuming we see the whole picture, but so many people carry silent burdens or double lives that we only glimpse in the rearview mirror. There is a specific kind of grief in losing the person you thought you knew, even while they're still standing right in front of you. I want to leave you with a few things to think about tonight. Have you ever had a moment where your intuition told you something was wrong, even when everything looked perfect? And if you found out the person you loved was still living in their past, would you have the strength to walk away before the sun came up? If this story resonated with you, or if it made you look at your own surroundings a little differently, I'd value hearing your thoughts in the comments. A like or a follow helps us keep sharing these reflections, but mostly, I just hope it gave you a moment to pause. Sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't what's lost, it's what stays. Stay safe.